I would like to thank the organization for inviting me to be here. I'm new in this media business. My background is high-performance computing, supercomputing, and suddenly selling my startup to Abril, I found myself in the middle of this crazy world of media. And being here with these monsters, like my friends here in the panel, has been great because I'm learning a lot. My presentation is going to be a bit about the transition from traditional media to digital from the perspectives of a publisher. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the good things, and the good news are about Brazil and Latin America and how we're growing. And then we're going to say a little bit about the bad thing, is how competition is changing. And the most interesting part of the presentation is actually a bit of our experience and the challenge we're facing with this new world. And so let's do that. The good thing, Brazil and its media are still booming. We saw Brazil having a tremendous growth in the last years. We suffered some deceleration this year, but it's still growing. And we hope it keeps like that. We're praying for that for the next years. But one of the main reasons behind the prosperity of Brazil is that we're suffering the effects of a demographic bonus. We're seeing for the next decades a lot of people entering the economic area of the population, and that's going to have tremendous impact on the economy. Advertising market and spending on ads is growing, which makes things even more interesting for media companies. Even the number of titles in magazines in circulation, the same thing is happening with newspapers, TV, and all type of media is growing, which gave us some good signs for the future. But more importantly for magazines is that we're not subsidizing the readership. Just to give an idea, if you look to the numbers of Veja is the third largest weekly magazine in the planet. We're charging like $250 per year for a subscription with the discount. And if you look to what happens with Time, which is the biggest one, we have $30. So what that represents to us is that we do not have the guns on our head so far, and we're not that dependent on advertisement, what makes us a little bit more safe from fluctuations in advertisement. When we look to digital in Brazil, we are a digital nation. We are today the number 4 top market for the selling of computers in the planet. 74 million people on the internet. It's just 40% of the population, which is good because there's a lot of opportunity to grow here. 22 million mobile phones. It's more mobile phones than people in the country today. Of course, that data costs are still way too high, but that's changing. And we have just something around 11 million mobile phones. But just to give an idea, we believe that the traffic generated with mobile phones right now, it's bigger, with smartphones right now, it's bigger than all the traffic we had with other types of mobile phones. Very, very engaged people on social networks, and maybe pretty soon we're going to say that we are a mobile nation, but there is still lots to improve. That's the good part. And what our media companies are doing with that, and that's something that we saw our friends here telling that, and I'm going to show a small video. That's the unique part I'm going to tell about what Abril is doing, is where we can see lots of opportunity for a 360 type approach in the media. We came from a publisher to a segmented publisher, multi-platform publisher, and now a 360 media company. Okay.
Criar possibilidades. Essa é uma ideia que a gente acredita. Uma revista pode ser só uma revista, mas pode ser também uma grande marca. Ela pode estar no seu computador, no seu iPad, no seu telefone, entendendo as necessidades de um novo mundo, de um novo leitor. Um anúncio pode ser só um anúncio, ou um anúncio interativo com som e imagem dentro do iPad, que te leva para um site, que te mostra um novo projeto, que é compartilhado nas redes sociais e conquista milhares de seguidores. O projeto se transforma em um evento, que é transmitido na TV e divulgado na revista. A gente acredita numa nova forma de comunicar e anunciar, onde a sua ideia pode ser apenas o primeiro passo para uma série de possibilidades. em que uma mensagem se desdobra em muitas outras, criando um relacionamento com seu consumidor onde quer que ele esteja, de maneira surpreendente, nas mais diferentes mídias. Ir além. É isso que a Abril Mídia faz. Produtos e marcas com excelência editorial e credibilidade que transitam nas mais diferentes plataformas de comunicação, em uma rede de infinitas soluções. Para você, anunciante.
Well, and now we go to the bad part of things. All the new things we saw here today, I mean these new players that are competing in this media business, those guys were not here like 10 years ago. And one thing that's happening is that the competition is changing drastically. We're not competing just with our traditional competitors, with our traditional enemies, but we're competing with everybody. The problem is there is only 168 hours in the week, and every minute a guy is playing an Xbox, he's not reading our kids' magazine. So competition is everywhere. And we have to look not just to the traditional competitors, but to substitutes as well. And then we go to the new thing where the challenges are appearing to us. I'm going to start that telling that these new customers, they require a new currency to understand what type of value we're providing for them. And if we do not provide value, probably won't be able to get advertiser dollars and users dollars from that. But what's happening here? First, content is still king. We believe very deeply on that. But the point is that content itself is not enough anymore. I mean, if you put your content on a new platform, you do not provide the exactly type of experience for that platform, probably that thing won't be valued by your users. Brands are still rules, but rules by them, the brands by themselves, still not enough. Physical and logistics distribution, which was one of the ways that media companies, both in the magazines and TV and things like that, create their empires, the rules do not apply on digital. Printing facilities. Probably it's a joke. What's going to be the role of that in the digital plan? The new currency here is user experience. When we look to the type of products that Apple brought to us, we saw a lot of design, but the real thing behind of that is user experience. It's not design from the visual standpoint, but it's the design from how it works standpoint. And that leads us to the next challenge. My question is a provocation, is how many of you are already a technology company? And of course, this presentation is going to be biased because I am a tech guy. And the point here is that when we talk about user experience is deeply tied to the way the products are designed. But the way the products are designed is not like how they look, but how they work, and how they work depends drastically of technology. Of course, that the whole of a product designer is to hide all the complexity from the user, but behind of that, we're going to see lots and lots of technology, millions of dollars in R&D, lots of people, lots of brain to make a compelling product. And that's going to be a challenge for us. I used to say that for Abril to build a magazine, and they're great on doing that, it's a linear process. They can understand the segment, prepare editorial team, create the visual identity, and put that to the printing subscription machine, and it's done. We launched 4 new magazines in 2010. All 4 of them surpassed their business plans. But when we go to digital, we cannot apply the same type of thinking. It has to be differently. You must not outsource your brains. You can buy technology. It's a fast way to get access to that, but you have to understand the type of technology you're using, and you have to have these, these skills in your team. So the point here is technology is the engine for all the content and the brands that we have. And now the most important thing, I like very much the presentation of my friend here from Televisa, because that's something that I'm telling to people all the time. Complexity is going to be a huge partner from now on. There is no way that we can do all these type of sophisticated products without embracing technology. And I'm going to show in the end an example on how that happened with Abril with the iPad. So one thing is, my advice here, I try to keep things as simple as possible, and sometimes it won't be able to make it very simple. You're going to find lots of hidden complexity on the way. Why that's happening? First, because technology is changing at a very, very fast pace. Platforms, especially the new ones, they're not mature enough, they're changing all the time. take your time to check how many times Apple changed the rules for the App Store. It's hard to understand what they're telling. Sometimes not even them know what they're writing on that document. You submit an app and it's rejected. You submit the same app and it's accepted. It's changing all the time, lots of complexity. You have to choose your platforms very, very carefully. You cannot embrace everything. Imagine if we decide to go to all the platforms, the amount of complexity that that's going to bring to the game. At Abril, we decide today that we play on 3 main platforms, which is, I'm talking about digital, which is websites, mobile apps, and iPad, and we're playing with all the new things, but those 3 are the ones we're attacking very seriously now. And be surprised be ready to be surprised all the time. Just to give you an idea, we decided to use one technology for our iPad magazines. A few weeks ago, that company was acquired by the competition, and that's going to change the rules of the game. That's going to be like that for the next year. So embrace complexity now. And then we go to the example about the iPad. What was a simple idea in April 2010, which is, okay, let's put Veja on the iPad. The iPad was being launched in the US. We started to build a team to put Veja on the iPad with the best experience we could do. And what could possibly go wrong? So one magazine inside a new device, and then we have the digital version of the device. Well, actually things got ugly in the way. It started with lots of extra work. You were creating a very interesting visual digital identity for that magazine on the iPad, but now you have to deal with 2 orientations of the file. You cannot have just what you have on the paper, but you have landscape and you have portrait. That's extra work for the editorial, for the team. You have lots of extra work with multimedia. You have extra work with programming. You have people that are doing software development to create the interactivity on the platforms. Technology is changing, and the App Store approval is kind of a chess. You never know what's going to come out of the process. Downloading and networking issues. That was fun. One day I was learning to sail in the middle of a lake in São Paulo, and I got a call from somebody of the Chivita family. They said, well, I can't download Veja on my iPad. It's taking hours. You have to solve that. I was in the middle of nowhere, and I was calling my team to understand what was happening. And basically, he had connectivity issues at home. You don't have that with physical magazines. So there's a lot of new things to think about on how to support those news users. And that was just the OK chapter of this history. And then we have, OK, one magazine, 2 orientations, but we decide to go not just with iOS. We have to go with Android as well. So 2 different platforms. And just in 2011, those 2 different platforms released 5 different versions of their OSs. And you have to keep your applications for all these different OSs, and they're not the same software. You have to test that in different way. You have to develop in different way. And to make things a little bit more complicated, when you look to Android, they have different type of form factors. You cannot use exactly the same type of design on the iPad, on the Android. It's not going to be exactly the same type of experience. You have to deal with that. And then we decide to do that with 20 of our titles. We have today, I think, 22 titles on the iPad, Android, and PCs. And suddenly Abril, that was not a software company, was handling hundreds of apps being developed, tested, submitted to approval process just in 1 year. Of course, it's not sustainable. Of course, it's going to make things more expensive, but that's something that we have to have in mind. And maybe the most important thing here, you have just one type of resource to handle all that, and that type of resource is becoming the most rare type of resource everywhere, which is talented, passionate, empowered, and motivated people. Just to give an idea, in Brazil, for the next years, we're going to have 70,000 openings on IT, and the country cannot produce that amount of good professionals. It's going to be harder, and we're going to have to fight for those guys on the market. Another thing that we created to try to deal with this complexity. When we launched the magazines on the iPad, we saw that advertisers were not coming to the platform, and we tried to understand why. One of the things, of course, is volume. There is not enough volume on the iPad so far. But the point is that both advertisers and agents were not understanding the potential of the platform because they didn't have access to the technology or they didn't have people that could play with that technology. And we decided to bring everybody to the table, and we created our T-Lab, which is a tablet lab where we put Abril people together with agents, together with advertisers, providing all type of resource, from people, technology, software, devices, to help us together to find a solution for the customers. And majority of the new ads we're having on the iPad now are coming from this type of initiative. And the final thing is about platforms for the selling and distribution of digital content. My friend from Global said that the subscription is a problem, and yes, it is. It's kind of unbelievable if you read and try to understand the terms of this new platform for subscriptions, and we decided to create a platform for Brazil for that. We have just released IBA, which is our platform for the distribution and selling of digital content. It's going to be complete agnostic in terms of platform. It's already play on iOS and PCs. Android is about to be released, and it supports any type of digital content like magazines, newspapers, and books. And we're opening that for all of our friends in Brazil. We're inviting all the other publishers to put their content on this platform. A lot of them has already signed with that, and that's going to be one of the ways to go. And we're respecting one of the most important things here. We understand that publishers must have access to their data, and everything that happens inside of IBA with the customer of a publisher, he's going to have full access to the data. That's one of the things that we don't believe that Apple and others are doing in the same way. Finally, what I can say is I believe we'll have lots of fun trying to understand this future and this challenge, and thank you very much.